All right. Let's see here. It's a little bit okay. Okay. Back on the Raspberry Pi. Well, let me say first, I guess, for anybody that might be new or catching the video of this, if you haven't watched my streams before, which is, I guess, particularly more possible this time since it's a new topic. So, I am going to be working on something I started a little bit on the stream last week or the week before, playing around with setting up a lamp stack on a Raspberry Pi. Today, though, what I'm going to do is pick a PHP example project and just kind of poke around at it and look for security vulnerabilities. And I'm thinking about this one, although I am going to go back and take another brief look through the list. This is the list of projects I'm working from. So far, I have done this one, although I was exposed to this one through a different way. And then what was the other one? Online movie ticket? Was that the other one I had? Oh, it was the no, it's quiz management, line examination system. It's down this way. It's finally okay. Not sure what order these are in. Somehow dated. Partners by Choice Matrimonial Project. Art Gallery, Tours and Travels, Online Administration, Attendance. Blood Bank, Hospital. Yikes, I hope there's not real blood banks in hospitals using this code anywhere. Not be good. Bus booking, car rental. These are like example projects from a website called projectsworld.in. And the bookstore was the first one I became aware of, and it was I was introduced to it through TryHackMe. One of the, I think, do they call them rooms or lessons or something in TryHackMe is working with an instance of this online bookstore and learning about some vulnerabilities in it. I think we are going to go with asset management, and that's asset management refers to a system that monitors or maintains. So that this is like a database for inventory or something like that. So, theoretically, this kind of system, if it were vulnerable, somebody could manipulate the inventory numbers, for instance, like set the inventory to -1 and then just take something and there'd be no record of it or something like that, for instance. If it's really bad, there may be more technical sort of computer risk vulnerabilities, like in the online bookstore, for instance, there was remote code vulnerability because you could upload a PHP file, which it would then execute for you. So this is looking pretty standard. I've only done a few of these. I was relatively new. I should say, relatively new to LAMP. Apache, MySQL, and PHP, all three. I'm pretty new to all three of those. I have a fair amount of experience with server administration, but it is mostly Nginx, Postgre, and Python in my case, not PHP. So I've been messing around with this a bit on the Pi. Yeah, I think we're going to do this. We want to download, it says download the zipped one. I think I'm going to just clone it. I think we can do that, right? Instead of download the zipped. I'm already SSH'd into the Pi here. We're in var HTML. I do already have Apache and everything set up. So we have our bookstore. We have our online examination system. The way I've been doing this is creating new folders inside of here. That way we can actually run all the projects at once, as long as they don't have overlapping names or database names or anything like that. So we're going to clone this one. We're going to want to go in there and set up the database. Go to PHP myadmin, create a database named user. Not the best name for a database, not the most descriptive name for a database, let's say. Let's see here, what was I gonna... How do you do this? So that's just new. I have done this a few times, but it's still not, like I said, it's not something I have a whole, so, 2 times, that's how many times I've done it. But if we want a new one of these, we're gonna name it user, apparently. Database created, then we can go to import here, and then we're going to be selecting the SQL file. One tricky bit, though, is that SQL file is inside the repo, which is on the Pi. Oh, did that make a subfolder? Wait, what? No, okay, yeah. This is the SQL file we need, but it's on the Pi, so I think let's get that by using this thing. But I don't know, this might not be able to access var www. Okay so far. I don't think that drag and drop works. Honestly, what I'm going to do is copy this and put it on the local browse and grab it there first. Oh, wait, this did, it says upload success. It's at 0. Not sure what that would have uploaded to. How's it going, Devin? Good evening. I don't know what that would have uploaded to. Hopefully we didn't just it's not going to try to overtake our import or anything. I do think import, the button's behind here, maybe? Yeah. Okay, that's all looking good. We'll need to probably... We will need to put some stuff inside the database connector, because it will need to be able to connect to it, but it doesn't actually say anything about that here. I'm sure we will need to, right? Settings? Maybe? Init db database. Guessing this will be the file we need to edit. Yeah. However, what I don't recall is, was I using... What did we use on the other projects? Database functions. This is the different one. Okay, I was using root. Which is probably not like what you should do, but is how it's set up for now. Localhost root, so we need the password, and then db name is user, which is what they named it as. My password is not that good, but it's that. Do you need to restart or anything? Set management. So that's probably not the right URL, right? We want this full thing here is going to be the URL. Nice. Cool. Okay, so from here, we got it running. Now I'm just going to poke around and see what we can learn, what we can find, what we can do, what this thing could improve upon. I'm going to go ahead and start a burp suite because we're going to probably want to do some stuff in here. And I think, honestly, what I'm going to go ahead and do is just also launch this browser. Take us over to there. Start taking a look at what we have. So let's look in the history. Oops. And let's look at the response we got and see if there's anything kind of interesting in the code of the page here. So we could use view source in the browser if we wanted, but we can also check this out here. Validate email, password. This is for when you register. I'm assuming this registration form here. So you could register. So the home page here is a registration form. First name, last name, email, password, and then press create an account. Presumably that's going to create an account for you. There's also a login up here. Looks like that's pretty much only things visible on the home page. And I'll probably go half and half here. I'll do some looking at sort of the front door, so to speak, just looking at what the browser returns to me. But at some points we may dive into the PHP code as well. However, truth be told, like, I don't really speak or read PHP that well, so diving into the code is not necessarily going to help me in too many cases. If it's down to like weird quirks of syntax and stuff like that, I may not be recognizing stuff anyway. Okay, you just have the sign up. So yeah, there's nothing crazy going on the pages. That we do have the sign up form, we have the login form. Our login form looks like it's going to be sending a post request, and it doesn't have a URL, which would it be called action? What's that, action? Method post name. Yeah, it is interesting. It looks like both of these maybe go to the same place. Kind of drawing a blank off the top of my head. What is it action where you put the URL? What's the attribute where you put the URL in a form? URL that processes, yeah. Okay, so both of these are empty, which means they're going to go back to the page we're already on. So they'll just send the post request right back to the same address. So that's potentially interesting. We're sending a post request to the same place to log in as we do to create. Presume it maybe can fetch the name inside of there somehow. Or maybe the name of the submit button that submitted it, or something like that in the back end. So not too much crazy going on here. We have a login form. I mean, I don't know. Let's try admin. Nope. Okay. Good job. Did the thing here tell us anything about a user, or do we need to create a user? Some of these projects, they'll tell you, like, you know, it has an admin user built in, and here's the username and password. We can check this page for it as well. Generally, I think this is the same text. It's GitHub, but yeah. It doesn't say anything about a user. We can always look in PHP MyAdmin, of course. Okay, so we have two tables, assets and users. Users has got some stuff in it for sure. It's interesting, we lost the IDs 0 through 10. And it's also interesting, so it takes email, password. So many of these that exist by default have the same email and password. How would it know which account you're logging into? They accidentally left the real Gmail in here. That's not the most ideal thing in the world, but maybe they meant to. And I mean, I don't really see anything like user is admin or anything like that. So I'm guessing just all the users count as admins? Let's take a look at the login. Email and password combination is wrong. Maybe let's make our own user. Registered successfully. Let's take a look at that traffic though. Okay, yeah, this was our post. This was our post to create the user. I never did actually look at our post to log in. We should probably look at that as well, actually. So we had, it's like actually 2 posts were made, interestingly. Oh, admin, that's right. Yeah, I did that. It does have a PHP session cookie. Interestingly, when we posted and it gave us the wrong, told us invalid. It did send us back though, still a 200. I mean, with an HTML page inside of it. How did the alert happen, I wonder? Oh, there it is. Okay, so I'm imagining in the backend then in this PHP script, there's kind of like one PHP page that's got if login failed, or, you know, if login didn't succeed, it's going to drop this onto the page as well. I wonder what it does when you succeed, so I guess we got to see in a minute. So this was another failure just using a different username and password. The one we found in the database, which I'm surprised didn't work, actually. So when we created our user, we actually got a 302 response instead of 200. This project does an interesting thing like the last project I looked at, though, is that it sent us a 302 response with a location header. So the client browser is going to use those two things. It's going to say, hey, I got a 302 response. Let me look for the location header. And then once I have the location header, let me redirect the user to go there. But the way these projects work, they also still send you the rest of the page, which is kind of interesting. In the last one of these projects I looked at, I was able to leak data this way because it returned me a 302 with a redirect to another thing, but it also returned me a page with data in it that I was not really supposed to be able to see. Those all look like where Regith could log in and check out your project. It might even call home with something as simple as a 1 pixel. Yeah, it could have a remote... could have a remotely embedded image or any kind of asset, really, right? Doesn't even have to be an image. It could be a JavaScript file or anything. It's a good point. One bad thing about using public templates, looking for the catch on the free templates. Yeah. And these ones, I don't know. I mean, they're templates in a way. They're also kind of just example projects. In a way as well, but they do. Yeah, I don't know if they load their assets locally or not. That's definitely something to look at. So that might, well, I mean, I suppose we can see all this stuff here, right? So we have, I mean, favicon came from localhost. So far, we haven't made any requests out to the web. So far, everything has been only just back to localhost, like static assets. Okay, so let's see if we can log in using this new user that I just created. So that brought us to this page, but looks like, I mean, it looks to me like the same page, but this has been replaced. Content inside of here. It does say index PHP colon register, or I mean question mark register. That one's interesting, kind of. What did I did test at mail. Okay, that did let me log in. I wonder if it's per user. Maybe the idea is like anyone is allowed to create an account, but you only can see your own, stuff. But once we're logged in, we are now on home.php. Oh, interesting. What did this do? Oh, no, I've seen this before. This is a Google thing, actually. This is the Chrome browser. Well, it's Chromium is what this thing is. But it is, it's hitting Google's API for checking leaked passwords, which is a little bit weird for them to just do automatically. But I guess ultimately they're trying to be helpful. All right, so when we logged in successfully, it gave us a 302 with a location that says home.php. And it did also do that thing where it has also returned to us a page in addition to the 302. So and the client browser would actually ignore this page. The client browser, you know what's interesting though is we have really only the first half of a page. So we have body start. But this anchor tag ends and then the header is just lost to the ether and body and HTML. That's kind of weird. But that was our successful login. It gave us a 302 over to home.php. So one thing I want to try is just log in right back out, and then what happens if we hit home.php while we're not logged in. Brings us back to index. Okay. Let's look at the traffic though. At home.php here, it gave us a 302. See, this time there's no content. This time it gave us the 302. Location header just says back to index, but we got no content, which is actually good. In the last project I looked at, in this scenario, you failed a login. It gave you a 302 with a location header, but then it also gave you the content of the page that you just failed to log into. So like you could see stuff you were clearly not supposed to be able to. So got to step in the right direction this time. So it redirected us over to index, which is just this page here. Which looks pretty normal. And then our new user would have showed up here in our database. Down there. Oh, that's probably why my login failed, is the passwords are actually hashed. The ones that were in the database file are not seemingly hashed, but the new one that I just put in does appear to be hashed. So if the logic is take whatever the user entered, run it through the hash algorithm, and then compare it with what's in the database, you will not be able to log into any of these Rajith users unless you can find the string that happens to hash to that, but that seems unlikely because it's probably going to be longer. Okay, let's get logged back in. And that login post, it was sending as post request arguments, not like URL arguments or anything like that. Email the password and then also login equals login, which I guess that's probably the difference for the one that was create user. This one was create user, and it says register equals create account instead of login equals login. So that's probably how the backend tells those two apart. Can you like highlight? Is that, yeah, highlight. And I can even pick a color. So let's say green is create a user. And then this one is login. We'll say is just maybe orange for now. Orange-ish yellow. So generate a report is going to try to go to report.php. So one thing we could try is hitting report.php when we're not logged in. We shouldn't be able to get a report if we're not logged in. Report's not going to do anything if we don't have any assets, so why don't we try to get some assets. That does take us over to add.php, so another thing to check would be when we're not logged in, what happens when we hit add.php. This says title, category. You can't modify your categories though. You just get chairs, desks, cupboards, and then machinery and equipment. Okay, let's do chair, title, awesome chair. Quantity, we have 3 awesome chairs, actually 2 awesome chairs. Price, I mean, they're kind of pricey, but they are awesome, so that's good. Let's just, we'll call them $200 prices. We'll call them 200 non-unitary prices. Additional details, something here. Yeah, probably. Probably is its own table. We could see inside of this one it did have, so it had users and then it had assets. Doesn't have anything inside of assets. Actually, that is weird that it doesn't. Well, let's see how this one shows up once we save it. Let's add this one. Okay, so let's also make sure, I want to look at the, I'm going to make sure to see the traffic in here as well. So we're on add PHP. Presume that's going to be sending a post request. We got entered your data successfully. Okay. It doesn't show us our output right here, which would have been helpful for potential SQL injection. it may still be susceptible to that, but without showing us the output, it would be blind. Makes it a bit harder. So we did send a post request to add. Our post request basically has all the stuff we put inside the form. It does have add asset equals add, so maybe one thing that could be interesting is what happens if we do remove or delete or something there. It was in assets as part of the table column name. I gotcha. Let's see here. Can I just unfold that one and then here's category. How did it know to select those? How did those default ones exist? Maybe those are built into the page. Those must be built into the page, I guess. Okay, and at this point we have already added it, actually. Wait, so why don't we have... Oh, we do. Okay, here's our awesome chair. Not quite. I'm still not very used to my MySQL, PHP MySQL yet. MyAdmin, that's what I meant. Okay, so we have an ID. I don't know what these functions. I don't know what that means. I'm gonna mess with that. Built into assets table during the creation, most likely. But there's no, before I just added this one, there were no in there. There were none in there that I could see. I mean, category exists as a column, but there were no objects in the list yet. It does, technically, it looks like just get stored as a string, varchar32. Interestingly, it went to lowercase. I think it was uppercase on the page, but I'm not positive. Okay, so what did it returned also, it did return another 302 with a location back to add PHP success. And then it also did do this thing where it's returning you a page as well. Half a page, part of a page. It's weird that we're losing the second half of those pages. It's an empty table, so it's pulling the column name. For, I mean, category, it pulled that to the page, but then like chair, office equipment, whatever the other ones, those are the ones I'm confused as where they came from. Oh, there is a view results. Oh, but that just says back to home. And then there's add, which just takes you back to add without success, probably. Back to home, so we have our single object there. Okay, we put 2, they were at 200, they're actually in RS, and then that makes total of 400. We do have delete with ID equals 1, so immediately I start to wonder, could I send that request for other users? So that's one thing to test later, since that's just an ID, like theoretically another user could send a delete. I'm assuming this would be a post when we click it. Not going to click it just yet. It does have update as well, which is update.php and then the ID. That brings us to here. Interestingly, yeah, this one is actually just down to a string now instead of the drop down. So from here, yeah, here's where we had, so it said chair, desk, cupboard, machinery, and equipment, but this must just be hard-coded. What is that? That is on add.php. My first inclination would be to open this in PyCharm, but I'm actually gonna see how long I can go with just using the SSH session here. Let's cat add. And we want to find the category select, the select that has the name category, which is here, category. It does just have some hard-coded ones. You know what's interesting, though, is like once you do a new category, so it's weird that it presents it as a drop-down. I guess that's the main thing that's weird about it. Awesome desk. We had one desk, price 34. It's interesting that it lowercases it, and then once you get to the updating here, you can do any kind of string, it looks like. Like instead of desk, we could say table. Now it saves as table. And it's odd that it's not, that it's always giving you this set of 4 stock ones of these, which is weird, but not vulnerable, so. Yeah, I think it's got to be here. I think, yeah, it's just giving you the 4, and it's weird because it also doesn't read the new ones out of the database. So like you're just stuck on these 4, and then like if you were actually trying to use this system, you'd add it, and then you'd go and update it to your custom one. Yeah, yeah, not the most user-friendly system in the world. Okay. So let's take a look back at home. And then, so we do have these updates. Update PHP ID equals 1 or 2. Let me log out and then try hitting those. Let me also highlight the traffic for that post. Update, that was this one here. I updated the category to table. Magnified that so it's easier to see. Okay, so my guess is that it will not let me see it while I'm logged out, which is good. That's true. Okay, yeah, that redirected me. Let's look in our... Nice. Okay, we got a 302. We don't have the page with all the stuff on it, so that's good. And basically, we were not logged in, so we were not allowed to get to that page. It redirected us back out to index. But what if we had another user? What if we said other... Okay, so now we're logged in as a different user, and we don't have any assets. If I create a new asset, is it going to have ID number 3? It does. So if I'm go to update ID 3, also start back up my tunes here. Oh, I don't think I mentioned it when I first started, but I don't have the camera on because I have the Pi, which is the thing serving the server, connected to the USB input thing here. We haven't really been using it, but it does not work very well when I have the camera and that USB HDMI thing in. So we're going with just the HDMI for now in case we need to see it. Okay, so that did give us ID 3. So now we're on the other user. What happens if we just go update PHP ID 2? Yeah, we're totally able to see somebody else's thing, right? Like this was made by the first user, and now I am able to see the data even though I'm not that user. So that's not good, obviously. Somebody could then steal all the other users' data, and in this case, it actually, because it's just an ID, right? You could actually just make a for loop that goes until the server returns to you an error. Like, what does it do on for? Oh, that's interesting. It gave us an empty page. What happens if we fill it in? Weird. Oh, it has to be a number. Huh. Didn't seem to be too upset about that. Sent the post. Here's another one of these. It gave us this 302 with a location, but it also gave us part of a page. In this case, it was the update page. Where was one of my other updates? This was an update. So a successful update returns a 302. And I got a 302. That's really weird. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it has any error handling for the non-existent ID. I wonder if it created a new object or if it just failed silently. Looks like failed silently because we still only have 3. We don't have an ID 4. Let me take a look in update.php. Whoops, I need a cat. Actually, you know what? Let me try this. What if we go open? Oh, but that's not under media. I don't know how to find where the mount point for this is. Whoa. That's cool. That's the terminal on both sides. Oh. That doesn't feel like a good thing to put in the project thing inside of PyCharm. Let me actually just download a copy of the same project fully. So it's not too bad so far, honestly. So far, the worst thing that I have found is that, I mean, it's pretty bad, I guess, technically speaking. But the worst thing I found so far is that other users who have a login can look at the data for every other user. So any user with a login can see data for any other user, which is pretty bad. And frankly, I guess, and update. Wait, well, we didn't test the update, though. I can see data so far is all. We'll test the updating, though, but it's possible they could update. And if updating works, then unfortunately, the next thing, which is also probably going to work, is deleting. So any user could actually delete all the assets of all the other users. That does turn out to be the case, which is first project. What does safe mode do? This is where things start getting unpleasant by having to check a post versus a logged in user. Yeah. Yeah, it should be validating which user is logged in, but it seems like it's more just validating that the user is logged into an account. Actually, what's the link between the assets and the people? Because it did, on the front end, it does show you, okay, so it has user ID right here. It has a foreign key, of user ID. I wonder if we could pass user ID to the update form in order to change an asset from one user to another. Okay, so update PHP says require init, error reporting 0. If logged in is false, then destroy header, location index, exit. Presumably that's going to return a 302, I guess. Not sure why exit is 302, but okay. Asset management label. This does have welcome and then first name from user. Header ends PHP ID get ID. Okay, get, that's going to be the ID from the get arguments up here. This ID right here. And I guess that's just going to store it inside a variable called ID, and then we're going to make asset data, which is asset data con ID. So I guess that's connection and then ID. I don't know where con I guess probably came from init. Session start, require database functions user asset. This is where, yeah, there's con, MySQL connection. Is there a table for user session tokens and session ETL? Otherwise, eventually, you'll have to get into that. Actually, I don't know where the user stuff is stored. So far, all of these projects have worked the same way with this built, I think it's built-in PHP session handling. Technologically, the way it works is you have a PHP session ID right here, which is in a cookie, and that's getting passed to the backend. The backend is using it to determine whether you're logged in or not, and also to determine which user you are logged in as, although as we saw before, the update page doesn't bother to make use of that information, which is not ideal, but I don't actually know where it's stored. All of these have worked the same way, but I have not found the sessions. Like, those don't exist on the user object that I can see. And that's supposedly users table and then assets table. Supposedly those are the only two tables in this database, which happens to be called user, which was the name for this, the database name for this project. So I don't actually get where those session IDs are stored. I mean, they're stored in the cookie, but the backend has to store them somewhere as well, but I don't know where. My best guess is it's in another one of these tables, but it's got to be something built into PHP or built into that session management. PHP session is alternative to the standard cookie approach. It's still a cookie, but it's called PHP sesh ID. It's typically stored in the temp directory on the web server itself. Apache 2. Apache 2 is the only one that in SSH, I assume is me being SSH2 it, one for a terminal and one for my file connection. Apache 2 is the only one that looks related to the server stack at all. Is that a directory? Permission denied. Says temp. It's interesting, those all have the same UUID looking thing in there. So CD failed, but then sudo CD doesn't exist. There's nothing inside there. Likely be session ID. Inside temp. Okay, this might be WordPress specifically, I guess. Maybe that's only stored in RAM? Maybe it's not stored on the disk or in the database. I think we can we validate that by stopping the server and then restarting it? And then if we're still logged in, that means it has to be stored either in the database or on the disk. Is if we stop the service and then start it again and come back here and we're still logged in, I mean, I guess it could still be stored in RAM, but it would have to be somewhere that doesn't get destroyed when we stop the service. Got nothing now. Get an error message from Burp Suite because Burp is proxying all the traffic from that browser. If we, oops, I want start that time, shoot. I'm still logged in. Even hard refresh. Server's PHP any session save path. We'd have to find that. I don't know where the PHP any file would be. Is that going to be etc.? Is there a PHP in here? Okay. Let's cat, actually. Cat. Yeah. Okay, we wanted what now? Session.savePath. Let's also get some grep action going here. Grep session.savePath. Is grep -n a thing, or is that only get grep? That looks like it. n/path. varlib PHP sessions, that's got to be it, right? And then it looks like there's a comment or something talking about it here, but really varlib PHP sessions, that sounds promising. ls var lib. I mean, hopefully it's like read protected, right? PHP sessions. Permission denied. Good. Okay. Sudo. There we are. And then are those cat var lib PHP sessions? Have something inside it? Permission denied. Yep, good job. Sudo does have a lot of stuff inside it. SQL. Why is this stuff in here? This seems super weird. This is what created the first users. Huh. Anyway, somewhere in those files, I guess, must be the thing that it's using to look up once we pass it our session ID like this. In fact, D4IR, I think that was one of the file names, wasn't it? It's file names. Yeah, D4IR. Let me get a look at that one, actually. Maybe this first one is like weird because it was the first one? I don't know. Oops. Oh, that's so... I hate how that like overwrites your history even if you didn't run the command. Just gonna get this back in my history. Whoa. What? No. What? Oh, I shouldn't have cleared. Probably not selected anymore. It was actually. Oh, that one has hardly anything inside of it. ID S226. Okay, that's my user number. I think we saw that back on the myadmin assets. Inside assets, it has a foreign key to user. Yeah, one of mine's 25, one of them's 26, and it looks like whichever one is this session ID is 26. Let's see here. PHP info, let me catch up here. PHP info might have the config where those are stored. PHP, is that a thing you can call inside of the PHP script? Like if I did echo PHP info or something like that? It's nice to see because trying to set that up manually is whirlwind. Yeah, I bet. I can't even imagine. DB creation table in the session file. That's a bit concerning. Yeah, that was a little bit weird. I don't know what's up with that one. It's definitely strange. My guess is probably PHP myadmin. PHP myadmin probably also uses the same thing, right? Probably also uses PHP sesh. Maybe, yeah, PHP sesh ID. Yeah. So then maybe it stores like a history of actions or something as well. And so then in this case, the history was actually the import action from the PHP myadmin user, not any of the users from the sub application, this asset management. You can echo PHP, okay, almost anywhere you want. Expect a session to have a token, yep. Been years since I've done that deep into it. Maybe it's normal for sessions now. Yeah, I bet it's that first one from myadmin. And then it's probably like a general it's probably like a general system to where you could store anything along with that session. And PHPMyAdmin has chosen to store history of the things you run, because I assume somewhere in here I could go find like somewhere I suspect I could find that history somehow. Recent? There it is. Recent, maybe. And favorites, if I were to save favorites, those would need to get stored. Of course, that could be PHPMyAdmin. Okay. Let's look at generate report. So report is report.php. It does look like a GET request. It breaks it down by category, but it only does those hard-coded categories. So the ones that we changed manually with update are just not included in the report. That is nice. That is a nice touch. I like that. It's real good. Hey, 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 hey. Back my foot, buddy. Let me look in the code. I mean, that's hilarious. So it's report says user, and then it says asset data get assets connection ID. And then it has tr with those three headers, and then it has, yeah, ID equals user ID, cat equals an array, so that's short for category, is an array which contains chair, desk, cupboard, machinery, and equipment, hard-coded. T-count, T-price equals 0. For each category as values, count equals get count, T-count equals T-count, price equals get price, T-price equals T-price plus price. Create a TR. And then inside the TR, we put a TD with values, count, and price. And then at the bottom, we output the total T count and the total T price. Logout just says session starts. I wonder why it does start. That's interesting. Session start, session destroy, and then location index. It is weird too. Nothing here says 302, but it must be returning a 302. So delete is very basic. Is get the ID from the get request arguments, the query parameters, and then call delete data con ID. I wonder where all, there's a bunch of these things like delete data, get assets. It's a bunch of these sort of helper functions. I wonder where those are from. Okay, here it is. Also, I commend the mixing of camel case and snake case. It's also a nice touch. I'm guilty of that myself sometimes, so props to them. You're only allowed to sell chairs, table. Yeah, yeah. Could be useful for seeing what people are doing, though. Well, let me catch up. It does not seem like history. You could do echo. Okay, it does seem like a history, but having a history of SQL. Yeah, I would agree with that, I suppose, right? Because if somebody else happens upon that, they could see how your database tables were created, which then means they could figure out what SQL to use to like insert their own user or something like that. Of course, in this case, it allows you to create a user on the homepage anyway. So let's say get assets. select star from assets where user ID equals user ID. Is that doing it the safe way? It's not concatenating the string. This one looks like it's more concatenating the string though, right? So total, select star from... Not familiar with the ticks. Star from assets where user ID equals ID. That might actually be safer. Is that safer SQL usage? I'm not familiar enough with PHP syntax. Update assets set. And it says space dot. Implode? I mean, this is calling dot implode on this string, is it? It's weird that there's spaces in there. Comma, update, dot. Yeah, it's something, I don't know what the dots are. Where ID equals ID. It seems like it's able to, fill in these $sign variables. Which I do think maybe is better than some of the other projects. Some of them were doing some actual concatenation and stuff to where it would be potentially injectable. Where's the actual login? It goes to post. So if you are logged in, that's true, then it redirects you to home. And then exit, which I guess must be the thing returning the 302. But it does also, I think, return all of this. But what handles the post? Okay, here we go, maybe. If empty, post login equals false. Okay, so I'm guessing that means if the post variable called login is not empty because we're checking for false. So if we are handling a login post, then email equals post argument email, password equals post argument password, login equals call the login function, con email password. If login is equal to false, we are ending this PHP section here, it looks like. If we are not logged in, then we end up with, okay, that looks familiar. That's our script with our alert that told us we didn't log in correctly. And then we start a new PHP. Boy, this syntax is something else, huh? This is gnarly with an if statement intertwined with PHP declarators here. This is insane. Okay, so at the end of the if, so we're still saying login was false. We start up a new PHP tag, but then right there was where we break for our else. So our else would be login was true. And in that case, we say $session ID equals login is what we got from here. Header location home. The redirect to home. And that ends the else right there, which also ends this else here, which was if we are handling the login, and then finally we have our closing, which would either close this PHP one in the event that it did not get closed here, or it's closing this PHP tag in the event that it did get closed up there and the new one got opened. Boy, that is some That is some syntax. Here's our registration form. So login, I guess, is probably functions user. User data takes con and ID. But what is this thing? Maybe this? I don't remember if the other ones were using this thing. Nice squealy query. Look back at one of the other ones. It is. Yeah, it is. So that may not be the safer variation of that. There is profile.php, but you just get first name, last name, email, technically password as well, actually, too. Made a settings.php. I will say one thing that's good, one thing that's for the better at least, is they don't allow you to upload a profile image, which was one of the downfalls of one of the other ones of these projects, is you could upload an image, but you could actually upload a PHP file with a shell in it, which is not good. Wanted to offer promotion. No, I'm good, thank you. I've once again forgotten how to do which mod type actions. There we go. Trying to think if there's any pages. E3 update ID 3. So this page might be one where you could look for some SQL injection around the ID, and potentially these fields here you could get populated with other stuff. So we get the ID, we get asset data, which says asset data con ID. We put the title from the asset data, which is this. Then we put asset data. So one thing is it's always putting asset data. It's not accessing like 0, 1, 2. So if we wanted to use injection to pull out other information, we'd somehow have to get our information renamed, which could make it difficult. delete data. This does a delete from assets where ID equals ID. So I am on update for page 3. If we did colon normally we would need to URL encode some spaces probably, but the browser I think is going to actually handle it pretty well for us. Delete from assets where, let's just say ID. So I was on ID 3. Let me just delete ID 2. Well, try to delete ID 2. Hopefully not successfully delete ID 2. Best outcome here, but 2. So let's see if we can delete the awesome desk, which does belong to the other user, although we already know we can delete the other user's stuff with the front end also. Brought me to this page. It did URL encode a bunch of that stuff. And because of the way it's outputting, like we wouldn't really have a good way to know if it worked other than kind of looking over here. Looks like it did not work, yeah, because that still exists right there. Probably we would need to do our encoding a lot differently if that's going to have any chance at working at all. It did return us a 200. Okay. Well, about the worst thing I found is that it does let other users see and probably delete stuff that doesn't belong to them. Let's test deleting, I guess. I never did actually test it. So deleting my own asset here. So let's make a new asset actually. Let's make a throw away asset, which is going to be a cupboard. Got one of those. That costs 78. Okay, so we have a throwaway asset cupboard. So our delete. Oh, that is actually, is that a GET request to delete? It's going to be a GET request, isn't it? Wow, that's not good. Let's get to the bottom of our list here. Yeah. Yeah, just returns a 302 with a redirect to home. I mean, does that validate at all? Must do some validation, right? It doesn't do any validation. There's no session or anything. Oh no. Okay, hold on. We're going to log out and we're going to try to delete ID number 3. Logged out. And I'm just going to grab this request. Copy URL. We're no longer logged in. Like I can't, if I go to home.php, for instance, that just redirects me to here because we're not logged in. If we go to delete ID 3, redirects us to here, but that's what the other one did also. We sent delete ID 3, it sent us back a 302, it redirected us to home. That is the exact same thing that the successful one here did. 302 redirect location home. So did it actually delete ID 3 or not? That is the question right now. It did. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty disappointing. So yeah. So I mean, you could like just insanely, blindingly, easily, someone could make a script to just delete, you know, willy-nilly, like everything, right? Like all kinds of stuff. What do you get if you give it an invalid ID? So ID 4, and in this case now 3 as well, have already been deleted. What kind of response do I get if I send that again? So we did get redirected. Do we get any kind of indication that it failed? No. No indication that it failed. I was gonna say, I mean, you could make a for loop that's just gonna count 0 to 1,000 and send this request for all 1,000, and you know, wait until you find one that says like invalid, that object doesn't exist, and then you'd know you're at the top one or whatever. But it looks like you can't actually do that. But you can still do the script, right? Like I could make the script that loops 0 to whatever number we pick and just deletes every single one of them, and you don't have to be logged in for that at all. That is very bad. Very, very bad. Where was I working the other day? Okay, this was something I was working on for some XSS JavaScript injection. We don't even, I mean, honestly, we don't even care about the result, right? The result is just going to be whatever it is. Oops, we need the path. Assets management, delete ID. So instead of ID, we'll do I. So this would just delete the first 100, but obviously you could make this whatever number you want. And right now we have only 2 objects in the database, because I deleted the other 2. We're going to run this, which is going to send a quick 100 requests. Cannot run program. Oh yeah, this is still stuck on thinking Python 3.9 exists, but it doesn't. It will print, I don't know, it doesn't matter. We're just gonna get those 302s. Okay, now we gotta wait for this thing to do its thing. I'm probably going to head out here pretty quick after this. I'd say that's unlikely for us to find anything worse than easily able to delete the entire assets database of the asset tracking system. I'd say that counts as a mild to severe vulnerability, somewhere in that range. At least it's not remote code, so like we at least are not able to like take over the server, literally, with what I have found. It's not to say that it's not vulnerable to something that would allow that, but with just what I have found here, it's not possible, so that's good. But we can... Whoops, I accidentally ran debugger and I didn't mean to. But we can delete all IDs 0 through 99. If I refresh here, no more assets. Assets go bye-bye. Hey, don't attack my foot. Alright, well, that's a pretty good finding, I would say. I need to go back... Ooh. I need to go back and brush up on the try-hack-me room for SQL injection. I don't have a lot of practice on that. I would be curious, though, to test out if these arguments here, like the way we're passing ID, or maybe the updates would be another place to check. Like on update, you know, we're sending back the new versions of all the things. I wonder if we were to put SQL injection in one of these, if we could affect the database. That might be one, but I need to brush up on my syntax for both SQL and the encoding that would have to happen and all that. So, well, it's a free template. Yep, for sure. Take it easy. Thanks for hanging out for the evening. Devin, hope you have a good night. Anybody else who's watching, thanks for following along. If you are going to use random PHP projects from the internet, please be careful. Don't hack things that you're not allowed to. That's my other caveat, which I probably should have said at the top, but unfortunately I forgot. So don't hack things that you're not allowed to. This is my own test instance of this server, so I'm allowed to. Yeah, I will see you all. I should be back on Saturday for sure for the normal morning stream. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know. May pop in before then, but you can always find me on over on Twitch if I do. So thank you and have a good night.